Welcome back, guys, to another cryptocurrency news article. This one comes out of Cointelegraph and foreign trade and pensions. What's next for Russia's CBDC project? Let's find out. The Russian digital ruble pilot launch was delayed until at least May, but the government still hopes to kick off the currency in 2024. Now, the pilot for Russia's central bank digital currency, CBDC pilot, should have been launched on April 1st, but it was delayed at practically the last moment due to the slow pace of the necessary associated legislation passing through Parliament. However, with the launch of the pilot still possible in May and the general rollout of the digital ruble scheduled for 2024, the Russian project remains one of the most important CBDC developments to watch, especially given its possible role in cross-border payments between BRICS countries, so Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and the intent to include it in the massive state-controlled pension system. Now, a brief timeline of Russia's CBDC. The first time the Bank of Russia, the country's central bank, announced its plans to explore the possibility of issuing a digital currency was in 2017. Back then, the bank's first deputy governor, Olga Skorobakovatova, said a CBDC would be priority for the bank and that it would be looking into the near future. However, at the time, Skrobakova's boss, Bank of Russia Governor Elvira Nabiulina, refused to acknowledge it as top priority, instead calling it medium-term or perhaps long-term prospect. In 2022, the Bank of Russia revealed it planned to roll out the digital ruble across all banks in the country by 2024. The bank said the implementation would take place in stages and involve extensive testing and infrastructure development. It stated that the digital ruble would coexist with cash and non cash payment systems, providing consumers more flexibility. Perhaps the most significant factor in accelerating the CBDC development was the need for a reliable tool for foreign trade and settlement following Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the subsequent sanctions implemented by several countries worldwide. Now, by earlier 2023, local media was reporting that the Bank of Russia had begun studying two possible cross border settlement models with the digital ruble. In February 2023, Skora Bakhtova published December 1st, 2023. The experiment would involve 13 local banks, several merchants, as well as real consumers. Through it would be limited to employees of participating companies. Now, Russian state media subsequently reported that the pilot was delayed pending the passage of specific legislation by the State of Duma, the lower chamber of the Russian parliament. The legislation will reportedly come into force no earlier than the beginning of May. Elena Klichevera, senior associate of Russian law firm KKMP, told Cointelegraph that two laws would enable the digital ruble launch. The first is a bill on amendments on the Civil Code, which determines the legal nature of the digital ruble as a form of non cash money in contractual relations arising from the use of digital accounts. Now, the second bill is on amendments to several laws, the main one being the Law on National Payment System. These amendments stipulate the basis for the functioning of the digital ruble platform and the responsibilities of the participants. Now, both bills were adopted in the first reading by the State Duma on March 16th, 2023, and the terms for commenting expired on April 14th, 2023. Now, we may expect the continuation of its discussion soon, most likely in May, Cleach said. Now, digitalizing and retirees' anxiety. Government Nabiulina herself first struggled using digital ruble in pension payments back in 2021 with few details regarding how it would work. Discussions around the idea resurfaced at the end of March of 2023 as the state-controlled Izvestia newspaper once again teased the CBDC pilot. Several weeks later, Nabiulina had to clarify that the digital ruble would be the principal or even the common currency for pension payments, but it's an additional option. Now, the pension system for which the state is primarily responsible is a traditionally sensitive area of politics and economics in Russia, with the elderly often being far from tech savvy. The mention of something digital can provoke anxiety. However, Chris Ems, a former business developer at Bitcoin.com who now lives in Russia, said the average Russian pensioner will still be able to spend their money in the exact same way and likely won't even realize that their money is digital. Alexander Podabink had the St. Petersburg branch of the Association of Chief Information Security Officers also doesn't see any potential tension. He told Cointelegraph that while many citizens, including pensioners, will eventually interact with the digital ruble, the government will probably use some kind of incentivization policy to help people switch to the digital form of money. In fact, digitalization has been a priority for quite some time. Today, there are a huge number of initiatives and events aimed at improving the culture of citizens in the field of digital technologies and electronic services. Special attention is also paid to inform on investments and security issues in this area. Podobink said, will the digital ruble find adoption? While the digital ruble significantly affects the use of private cryptocurrencies in the country all over the world, CBDCs are under development, and the crypto community at large perceives this as a government answer to the rise of digital money. Now, the Russian central bank has been highly hostile to any idea using crypto and even fought in the Ministry of Finance on the matter. Now, Podobink has no doubts about the bank's plans regarding the new currency. Now, undoubtedly, with such an emphasis of the central bank of the monopoly use of the ruble, its positioning will remain strong. And don't forget their plans to use it in calculations in the CSTO, Collective Security Treaty Organization, and BRICS countries. Now, M said the launch of the CBDC as a type of compromise between the anti-crypto central bank and the Russian politicians in the Duma who are taking a positive stance over the crypto regulation in general. He believes the central bank hopes Russians will choose to put their money into CBDC instead of buying high-risk altcoins. Now, Klyshev said that the Bank of Russia expects the digital ruble to replace cryptocurrencies with Russia and be more popular as safer instruments for settlements and investments. Whether this expectation will come to life remains to be seen, she concluded. Now, speaking to members of one of the parliamentary parties on April 17th, Nabilina didn't refuse the possibility of using cryptocurrencies in foreign trade. Strangely enough, she didn't specify whether this cryptocurrency would be private or issued by the central bank, but mentioned the creation of special entities responsible for mining. That makes the central bank's stance on the digital ruble and private crypto less transparent. The experimental plan to mine some currency and the testing of a national CBDC for cross-border settlements seem to contradict each other, but one thing is certain, in Nabilina's words, crypto shouldn't be used inside the country. So that person thinks, yeah, Bitcoin shouldn't be used there, but there's CBDC. But no, like this is how countries are moving away from the US dollar. Like literally, like they're going to utilize this with the BRICS nations. Like they said, it was China, Saudi Arabia, India. Like they're all going to have their own digital currency that works in it, and they're going to rely less and less from the US because we don't produce anything like everywhere else does. Russia has like, they do have gold there as well as oil. China, I know they do a lot of stuff, and this just the resources that come from everywhere. So it's just like we don't. So our dollar's going to be worthless. So we'll see what's going on and everything. But that's what's going on with Russia's CBDC project. So it was very long. It was hopefully informative for you guys on how close we are to the world adopting a CBDC, and we're still fighting if what regulations should be, what's the security and not. But if you guys did enjoy this read through, hit that thumbs up for me, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, the Crypto Sherpa is out.